Next to Chris, we have Thomas Marshall, our medical doctor on board. Now, Thomas on his second mission. His first flight was in 2009, whenever he served as a mission specialist for STS-127. Flying for the second time is Roman Romanenko. Now, Roman is actually a colonel in the Russian Air Force, and also he's a second-generation space flight. His father was also a Russian cosmonaut. Flying for the second time is Pavel Vinogradov. Now, on this mission, Pavel is actually scheduled to conduct a couple of Russian spacewalks. Also, flying for the second time is NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy. Now, Chris is the commander in the United States Navy. As a matter of fact, he's actually a Navy SEAL. And also on this mission, he's going to do a lot of spacewalking activities. Making his debut mission into orbit is Russian cosmonaut Alexander Murchkin. Now, he's also a lieutenant colonel in the Russian Air Force. And on this particular flight, he's going to do a lot of scientific and medical research. Throughout their time on the space station, these astronauts are going to be extremely busy doing a wide variety of microgravity research. And throughout the mission, our best wishes are always with the crew for a very safe and a very successful flight. Now, altogether, Expedition 35 will stay in orbit for a total of 6 months. Just doing their job and their studies. But exactly how do we maintain the space station? I mean, the shuttle played a vital role in the construction of the station, also the resupplying and the transfer of the astronauts. Now with the shuttle retired, in today's world, how do we maintain it? How do we get the astronauts up there? And also, how do we resupply them? Well, let's go ahead and talk about how we first get the astronauts up there. The video on the left gives you an idea on how that particular procedure happens. Now this camera is actually mounted on this particular spacecraft, the Russian Soyuz. And this is your vehicle into orbit, 3 astronauts at a time. In today's world, we launch in Kazakhstan. So imagine yourself, along with 2 of your good friends, inside of this vehicle. You're strapped into your seat, you're blasting off into outer space. Look how much room you have inside this capsule. Oh my gosh. Yeah, not a whole lot. So be really good friends. Okay, be really good friends. Now, normally, the Soyuz, which is actually a 3-part spacecraft, let's go ahead and talk about that real quick, and then I'll tell you my current thought. First off, we have your propulsion system. That's your electricity, your communications, your oxygen. This is what you are during launch and landing, and also docking with the space station. Over here on the top, that's actually your habitation module. That's your living room, your bedroom, your kitchen, and yes, even your restroom. Now, normally it takes the Soyuz about 2.5 days to catch up with the space station. But in this particular case, as you see over here on the left, we actually launched, we rendezvoused, and we docked with the space station within 6 hours. Now, that's never been done in the history of the International Space Station. It's a brand new concept that we did. And we were a little bit, skittish about this. The vehicle can handle it, but the main concern was the health of the astronauts. Because normally, it takes the human body about 2.5 days to adapt itself to the harsh conditions. But after reports came in, everything found out that, the astronauts are in good health. Everything is A-okay. And this is basically how the astronauts enter the International Space Station from the Russian Soyuz capsule. Now, the capsule also serves as a lifeboat. So in case of an emergency, if you have to evacuate, well, this is also your vehicle to come home. And so the vehicle stays with you throughout the entire time on the space station. Now, whenever you're done, and you are coming home at the end of 6 months, the entire vehicle detaches from the space station. The top and the bottom portion, they also detach right before you enter the atmosphere. The middle portion, where you are, that's the only thing that ever comes home. In today's world, we launch from Kazakhstan and we land in Kazakhstan. So you're coming home toward the desert, the parachute deploys, it slows you down, and then right around 3 feet, the retro rockets are fired, it slows you down even further, but you still hit the Earth at a pretty high speed, roughly around 50 to 60 miles an hour. So it is a pretty rough ride, but the Soyuz is very reliable, very, very durable. We've actually used it since day 1 of the space station. And Russia has actually used it since 1967. So as you're coming home, we are tracking the progression of the vehicle, and then of course we know exactly where you're going to hit. We go to your location, we take it out of the vehicle, and that's it. The mission is over. Once everyone is A-okay, and all the welcome home ceremonies are completed, that's it. You're free to go home to your respective countries. So again, with the Russian Soyuz capsule, that's what we get you to and from the space station. But you're up there for 6 months. You need food, you need water, you need clothing, right? How does that get up there to you? Well, we have these 4 vehicles on our list. And these 4 vehicles all have different mission profiles. They're all unmanned spacecrafts, They carry various tons of supplies to the station, and they also have different mission profiles. Now, once these vehicles have arrived to the space station and you've transferred all the provisions over, well, now they're empty, so they serve as dumpsters. They're refilled with things that you no longer need, like trash, broken tools, broken experiments. Once they're full, they undock from the space station, re-enter the atmosphere, and that's it. But let's go ahead and talk about them in greater detail. The first vehicle that we use is from Russia. It's called the Progress. The Progress can carry around 5,000 pounds of supplies. It can be flown either automatically or manually from inside of the station if a problem does come up. From Europe, we have the automated transfer vehicle. Now, in this particular case, the ATV flies and docks automatically with the station, so the astronauts have no control of it whatsoever. And from Japan, we have the Japanese transfer vehicle that carries around 13,000 pounds. Now, in this particular case, we have to activate the Canada arm, reach out and grab it, and then we have to attach it to the space station. This maneuver is what we call berthing. It's also a two-part spacecraft. It has a pressurized compartment, this area on the bottom, that's exposed. It houses equipment that goes on the outside of the station. And last but not least, we have Dragon. Now, Dragon is actually a privately owned spacecraft. The company is called SpaceX. Now, Dragon can carry around 13,000 pounds of supplies. And like the Japanese vehicle, we have to grab it with the Canada arm and then throw it to the station. One of these vehicles was actually on the space station not too long ago. Now, this one is actually a little bit different compared to the other three. Well, first off, these four vehicles have one thing in common. They're all for one-time use. The other three vehicles, whenever they're entering the atmosphere, they burn out. Dragon has a heat shield, so it splashes down into the Pacific Ocean. So now, since the retirement of the shuttle, we have a vehicle that will actually bring back samples, bring back experiments and payloads to the space station. Right, now speaking of the space station payloads, exactly what do we do up there? I mean, we talked about how the space station came to be, who's up there right now, how we resupply, but exactly what do we do? Well, right now, guys, we are currently conducting over 250 activities, one way or another. They give us a better understanding of spaceflight. First things first, we know that the human body has to adapt itself to those conditions, as I mentioned earlier. So here's what happens to us whenever we are in microgravity, to everybody. First off, atrophy takes place, so your muscles lose strength. Your bones, all around your body, lose calcium. There's also a fluid shift. The fluids inside rush up all the way to your head. It makes your head very puffy, but also puts a lot of pressure on your eyes. Your spine, it actually expands at least 2.5 inches within the first 48 hours of spaceflight, and also your heart, it shrinks. Now, these changes happen because in microgravity, you're not using your body as hard and as much as you're on the ground. So that's why, because of these changes, the astronauts are required to exercise every day for at least 2 hours. While you're exercising, as an astronaut, you may have somebody else in the Japanese laboratory doing some experiments with these little satellites. In a manner of speaking, they're called satellites. Their name is actually spheres. Basically, this is an outreach program that NASA has to reach out to high school and even college students to actually encourage them, also influence them to actually make their own satellites here on the ground, build them and test them, get them involved in math, science, and engineering. And if they're very, very good, their own little satellites can fly on the International Space Station. So yeah, that's one of the outreach programs that NASA has. Now, of course, not everybody is doing the exact same thing because, you know, you're all scattered throughout the entire space station. So you're exercising, this guy's working with spheres, this guy over here is growing plants in the European laboratory. Now, we grow plants in orbit not just to produce oxygen for the astronauts, but also to see how plants grow in microgravity, how they adapt themselves to those conditions. Imagine this. We're doing this particular experiment because we want to see how plants grow on Mars. Whenever we have astronauts on Mars, they're going to have to grow their own food. To resupply them on the red planet is not going to be as easy as it is today. So we're actually preparing ourselves for that particular event. Now, Expedition 35 is also scheduled to conduct 7 EVAs on the 6-month stay on the space station. An EVA is an acronym for Extra Vehicle Activity, and that's just a fancy term for saying a spacewalk. So as time goes on, either 2 Russian cosmonauts or 2 American astronauts will go outside the space station and perform maintenance tasks, installing cameras, uninstalling cameras, also experiments, bringing them in, and things like that. Also, they're going to do a lot of this, Earth observation. You know, they love taking pictures of our own planet. That's one of the top favorite activities for the astronauts. this actually helps us to understand home just a little bit better, particularly with the weather. Hurricanes, typhoons, the aftermath of tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, things like that. Now guys, with these experiments, I can go on and on and on and on and on. I mean, we'll be here all day, literally all day. But this gives you an idea of what we're currently doing on the space station right now. And earlier, as I mentioned, these experiments that we do, all of them combined, we take the information, that knowledge that we know, we plug it into everyday life. So you have benefited from the program, one way or another, with the small things that we have in our everyday lives. You have them at home, you have them at work, schools, hospitals, church, law enforcement agencies, in the military, thousands and thousands of other places, like this, for example. So sure, one way or another, all of you, you have benefited from the program. And imagine how many more benefits we're going to get 20, 30, even 50 years from now. So it's almost an exciting time for us here. So you can see with these examples that I presented to you, the space station is playing a major role in making our lives easier, just a little bit better. But you know, not just for us, but also for the future generations. So what is NASA going to do for the future? Well, on one hand, we've opened the doors to private companies. You know, we already talked about SpaceX, how they have their vehicles. Well, these guys are going to have theirs. They're under development right now, and some are even in the testing phase. These private companies want to fly their vehicles into orbit and also to the space station and provide